So welcome everyone. My name is Melanie Delicato. I am the program manager for Staples Canada Store Events, and I want to welcome you to Spotlight this evening. So for those of you who are new to the space, Spotlight is both a physical and a virtual destination where we bring together a group of like-minded individuals. And our purpose is to help you level up and grow to reach your goals and ambitions. And we don't do that alone. In order to do that, we work with experts right across the country. And tonight we actually have the privilege of having one of our vendors take us on this journey, Ekla. And Ralph is actually going to be leading the discussion as we explore one, how to pick a great journal, and then two, what do you do with it when you've got it? Yeah. So Ralph Sharma is one of the founders of Ekla, along with his father, Stephen, and his brother, Sam. So about 20 years ago, after 2 years working in finance, Ralph joined the family business. So Ekla, which means here it is in Italian, started out importing gifts and stationery products from Italy. So now 20 years later, Ekla is one of the largest wholesalers of journals and agendas in North America. They import products from the Far East, Turkey, Spain, and Italy. And Ekla is not only in the paper and stationery business, as they also produce ceramic mugs, desk accessories, photo frames, and all sorts of fun gift products. And Ekla is located in Brooklyn, New York. So that just goes to show our experts come from near and far. So Ralph, thanks for joining us this evening.
Thank you very much, Melanie. Worldwide, brought together by the love of paper. I think one thing we've learned over the last 7 months is we hate technology very much, right? We get by with it, but we're not loving it so much anymore. We're getting bored of it, but it's useful. So thank you, Melanie, for the introduction. So for this evening, for the first part, I'm gonna get a little nerdy, just about paper and journals and what you should look for when you walk into your local Staples Canada and you want to buy a journal and there's 20 feet of journals and you're overwhelmed and you can't figure out what you want. So I want to kind of give you some clues to look into and to see and to feel out a little bit what you should look for and what you think, what appeals to you. But before I go into that, I want to be perfectly clear. A journal is any piece of paper you can write down on. It could be digital. It could be like yellow and small and inexpensive. It's really whatever really appeals to you. That being said, if you want to buy a journal and you want it to last, there are some things that you should look out for, some specific things you should look out for. So whenever I think of journals, and we talk about journals a lot in this office, I mean, a lot of journal talk going, too much for most people. So, but a journal starts off with the inside, really what you're writing on. The cover, we'll talk about a little bit later, but really we want to talk about the paper, because a good journal starts with good paper. And there's a few things to look out for. Don't know why, most of you are Canadian, so grams mean something to you. Grams per square meter, GSM, right? That's something that in American meters, we don't really know. But for some reason, in the journal world, we talk the paper and journals, we talk in GSMs. So an Ekla journal, you're going to look around, and 80 GSM is a good quality, decent quality journal. Anything above that is even better. It means the paper is a little heavier, it's a little thicker. You'll write, it'll last a little bit longer, right? To give you an idea, like a back to school notebook, like a cheap comp book is like 56 GSM. So when you're looking at the belly band or you're looking at the marketing on the back of a journal, look for something that has higher GSM, higher than 80. Certainly under 70 is not really such great paper. And then the feel of the paper. Is it shiny? Is it matte? Is it smooth? Look at that. See if that appeals to you. Always buy acid-free. If it doesn't say acid-free, ask acid. If it has to be acid-free. That's the problem with recycled paper. It has a lot of acid in it. If it has acid in it, you close that journal, you put it away you write down your most important things in it, you close it, you put it on a shelf, go back to it in 5 years, it'll be empty. It'll be like you're starting a new journal. The words will just disappear. Amazing. They'll fade away. Something else to keep in mind. And if I'm going too fast, Melanie, I'm from New York. We talk, we go. Just shout at me a little bit.
You're not going too fast, but I'm going to ask you a question right away, because you said for the GSMs to look on the band cover.
Yeah.
So is that a requirement for most to make sure that it's on there for us to locate?
No, it's not. It's not on there. Unfortunately, it doesn't really appear so much. You can kind of, once you start feeling journals and you start thinking about the paper, you start telling. Like a good quality journal, you'll know. It's one of those things you'll know if you feel it. Like go look at a comp book, like a composition book, like a black and white. And like the next thing I was going to talk about is show through. If you can kind of almost see through it, the paper, right? So, because it's not such great paper, it's $1. You know what I mean? So that's something. If it says it there, then you should definitely like look for a higher number on that.
Perfect.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, acid free is important. Paper color. This is a little bit of more of a personal preference. So very often, this journal I have in front of me is I don't know if you can tell on Zoom, but is a bit of an ivory tint. I don't know if you can tell the difference.
Yeah.
On the Zoom, there's white and there's ivory. People like ivory because people like ivory. It's a little bit easier on the eyes, but that's again, it's a personal preference. But if you're writing a lot, and you're writing on a desk, and the light may not be great, and you might want to use ivory. Just you might want to look for that as a personal preference, but it is easier on the eyes. The white is kind of stark against your writing. Other things, particularly if you use a good pen, like people who like using fountain pens, you should think about what's called feathering. As you write on it, you want to see if that bleeds out. If the paper absorbs too much ink, it'll bleed out, and your penmanship will go pretty south, pretty poor, pretty quickly. Also think about like if you write on it and you can see it through the page, that's also kind of annoying. That's also not such great paper. If you use a Sharpie, you'll see through it, but if you use a regular pen and you can see through it, think about it, you're only going to use half your journal, right? If your journal is 256 pages, like our journals are, you can only use the fronts of every sheet if the paper is not so great. Finally, on the paper quality, lines are very important. We mostly sell line journals. We'll talk about different types of insides a little bit later, but something you want to look for in the lines is if the lines run all the way to the edge, or if they stop a little bit short. The reason for that is, first of all, when the journal is closed on the side, it's not ugly, right? But also, it shows that the person who designed that journal and worked on that journal thought about it a little bit more. They've designed their lines in a way that works. Usually there's a little bit more room on the top for a heading. The lines should be spaced out enough that you can kind of write neatly in there. But pay attention to the lines. Make sure they're a nice grayscale, something gray, something subtle, nothing like hard, harsh lines. It's just not conducive to being like in the vibe of writing nice. Other things on paper that you can look for, people like gilded edge. It's really nice. It's like the gold edge on the side of it. That's like a really nice extra touch to the edge. The next thing, like I said, if anyone has any questions, I'm not a paper expert, but kind of like, we know a lot about it after doing this for a while. The next thing I want to discuss is the binding of the journal. Again, we're working on the journal from the inside out, because the inside, also called the guts, that's where your words are going to stay forever. And that's what's going to last. Covers come and go. You'll like pink covers one day. You'll like this cover the next day. This one will be on trend. But the inside is really what you want your product to stick. The binding is a very important part of the journal, obviously. So the first thing we want to look for, there's different kinds of binding. So the kind of binding that we do most commonly is sometimes called the Smythe Zone, or it's like a hardcover book. Think about every hardcover book. It can kind of crack when you open it. If you can look closely at a Smythe Zone journal, this you can notice in a store in a second, and everyone's going to notice it right away now. It has these little pinhole dots. There's actually thread sewn through the book, holding it together. And that you can tell is a real good quality journal. Other kinds of books that may look like this are usually like they could be glue bound. Those pages fall out pretty quickly. And guys, stop me for questions if you want. And again, personal preference. There's other kinds. There's something called Wiro. Wiro is like a wire bound. The nice thing about Wiro is you can spin it all the way around. But look for a good wire. Like you want like the double coil, they call it. There's spiral. which is like, this is not an Ecolab product, it's really cheap. But you can look for Spiral. This is like, the least expensive journal you can buy. And also refillable is also interesting. You can buy inserts and change them out. I don't know if you see that. You can buy inserts and change out the cover and then save your inserts. People like that. I think the most important thing for a binding is you want to make sure it lies flat. Nothing worse than having a journal that doesn't lie flat. If it doesn't open all the way, it's the worst when you can't get inside the middle part of it. Again, you're wasting paper and it hurts. Things to look out.
So Ralph,
Yep.
what is the best binding option for left-handed people?
Well, that's really not. It's the problem is being you're left-handed, right?
Well, I've got two southpaws in my house, and they're going to
Yeah.
tell me that all the right-handed people are the problem.
Well, listen. The easiest journal to be flat is going to be a Wiro journal, right? You can also spin the Wiro journal around, so you can do that with a Wiro journal. So that's a big benefit if you're left-handed, right? Because it doesn't really matter. There's no bump in it. Yeah, so I guess Wiro would be the best journal to look for if you're left-handed.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, the last thing really on the inside is something that, yes, lefties do rock, Jennifer. They do. My dad's lefty. The headbands and tailbands, you'll hear this word so much. This kind of fills this little gap in the top over here. And again, that's just something, it looks like a little like furry thing in there. That's just something it shows a journal maker care about their product. It doesn't serve any purpose at all, but it just shows somebody who made this journal thought about this that much more, so that gap gets filled up when it's open and it kind of looks a little bit nicer. You want to make sure it has a bookmarker, and it doesn't have to, but if it has one, it's great. If it doesn't, you can have your 3-year-old make you a bookmarker and then put their name on it and be sure to use it every single day. And then finally, again, for the end papers, stylistically, some people like designed ones. Some people like things on them. Sometimes you'll see a book plate on the side that says this belongs to, or, when we talk about some guided journals later, there's a lot of introduction on that book plate, which is nice. But the most important thing of an end paper is it actually holds the book together. Without the end paper, the cover falls off. So it's important to look to make sure that you don't see any tearing when you're buying a journal over here. Because that's going to show like some pretty junky end paper, and the product's not going to, stick together so well. So that's basically the 4-minute, or actually 10-minute, wow, that took long, 10-minute primer on insides of journals. Insides of journals in 10 minutes by Ralph. Does anyone have any questions?
Well, I'm just going to recap what you've told us. Okay. So if we want to be able to keep and let's say journal our memoirs, we want to make sure that it's acid free, because otherwise, when we go back and open the book,
Who knows?
Our draft is probably not going to be there. Okay. We want to have a heavy spine. Is that correct?
Yeah, a sewn spine.
Sewn spine.
Yep.
Okay. And the paper should be sewn in.
Definitely. 100.
Okay. And 80 GSMs.
Or better. Yeah. That's going to be like the indicators of a good quality journal that's going to last you a while. There's a lot of other good journals out there, but if they don't have these things filled in, your memories or your thoughts that you wrote down, if you want to last for a while, it might fall apart, particularly if you're using it every day. You're opening and closing that every day,
So comparable to receipt paper.
Well, I love that. Yeah. Okay, so should we talk about some covers?
We should.
Okay. Like I said, this is like Journal Nerd 101. This is the best. So covers can be made from like anything, right? You have recycled product, you have not recycled product. But basically it works on the spectrum of, you have like paper cover products. Any kind of paper cover is going to be a little bit less durable. It's going to fall apart a little bit more. You have things like coated paper, which is like paper, but like I said, it has a coating on it, and that coating gives it some more durability. The nice thing about a coated paper product is it has a lot of flexibility in there. Moleskin, you guys heard the brand Moleskin. Moleskin is very famous for using coated paper. Something called PVC, which is really plasticky, not so great. Something that we use a lot, faux leather, we call it. Anyone who's a little bit older and maybe from the 80s, you may have heard of pleather or leatherette. I think those words are bad words now, but faux leather, you know, any Quebecois on here, faux leather sounds fancier. Well, also it's polyurethane. It's a plastic based product, but it's what we use the most. We feel it gives the best quality versus cost mix on it. It's very hard to tell though, and what is faux leather and what is real leather. Today, the faux leathers are so good that it's a big challenge to tell the difference. You have something called bonded leather you'll see around sometimes. Something called a company called Gallery Leather uses a lot of bonded leather. It's like somewhere in between. It's basically the hot dogs of leather. And then finally, you have something called genuine leather or real leather. A genuine leather or a real leather journal is Ecolo makes them from time to time. Those are really nice. The cover is really nice. The cover is the most durable cover you can find. You're going to pay for it though. They're pricey. They're expensive, but it smells like a great pair of, you know, shoes or a handbag. You know, it's the real thing. Genuine leather. If you're going to pay for it, make sure it says genuine leather on it. The word leather is unfortunately used by everyone for everything. So it's not really going to tell you if you have a genuine leather product. If you're going to spend $50 on a journal because you want that journal to last, then, you know, and it's genuine leather, make sure it says genuine leather or real leather on it somewhere. Also smell it, you know, it'll smell like a shoe in a good way. So, you know, that's what the covers can be made out of typically. And then again, it's personal preference. Usually those things, the cost is usually works with what you're going to spend. And now the flexibility of your cover, this matters really also a lot of how flexible or how pliable your cover is going to be. You have things like hardcover, also called something called, for the nerds out there, cased in. It's a hardcover journal. You sometimes have, you know, a flexible cover. Let me try to grab one. We'll talk about these later. A flexible cover, a little more bendy. You can put it in like, you know, your bag, throw it in a little bit easier. And then you have, we call an ultra flexi journal, which you can roll up like a book and it bounces right back, you know, like a magazine or a newspaper. Moleskin, again, I don't know why I'm referencing Moleskin twice now, but they use a lot of these ultra flexi kind of thing. The only problem with the ultra flexi is you have to be careful. Sometimes the cover, because there's no end paper, the covers could fall off. So it makes it a little bit more of a, you know, riskier product on the ultra flexi. Size, small, medium, and large. You know, depends on what you're using it for. Desk size journals usually are bigger. There seems to be a lot of more people are home now, so we're selling a lot more larger journals than we used to in the past. Closures, there's elastic bands, there's clasps, there's straps. There's Dayna Lee, who we can meet a little bit later. She makes a great journal with a heart flap on it. That's a great one. And then there's like bells and whistles and extras. Like, again, what are you using your journal for? Do you want to have a pocket in the back? We're going to talk about these Staples Canada journals that are great. They have a business card, little pouch in the front. There are all these, like, you know, kind of little extras that speak to you and speak to really what you're using that journal for. Does it come with a pen? Does it come with a pen loop? You know, look for those things, think about them, and then, you know, you can say, hey, this is what I want. In the end of the day, there's a phrase we use, you know, the journal, like, what kind of hand does it have? That's it. If it feels good in your hand, like that's what it is, then, yep, take it, buy it. That's what you're really looking for in the end of the day. Something that you're going to be comfortable with. Listen, you're going to be glued to this thing. You're going to be using it every day. You know, we hopefully using it every day. Hopefully you'll fill it up fast. So you have to be comfortable with that, even if you're a lefty, Melanie.
Awesome. So 2 questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
So when you were talking about the Ultra Flex, you were showing how flexible they were. Any concerns about them actually taking on that roll shape and not bouncing back?
Not huge. I mean, if you leave it curled up with something heavy on top of it, maybe. But I mean, if your cover is that full leather material, it'll bounce back. If your cover is like a coated paper, it'll squish like any other paper that's folded. It'll just eventually fold and keep that shape.
Okay. And then you've referenced a couple of times, depends on what you're using your journal for. So Ralph, what do you use your journal for?
That's a good question. So mostly me, for my personal preferences, I use a Wiro journal, a black PU Wiro journal. If I can get it out of my bag. I use that because I do like when it flips over. I like to turn it inside out, like, so I can flip it over. I also like an elastic band on it. And I also like the Wiro because I stick my pen in the Wiro hole. That's what I do. I don't know why, but that's what I like doing. And so that's, that's my personal preference on journal. I also have terrible handwriting, so I can never keep in the lines, ever. I'm like all over the place.
Yeah, lines weren't built for me. I always go out of them. It doesn't matter if they're there or not.
But interestingly enough, we sell almost nothing without lines on it. Everyone wants lines. Everyone's confident in their handwriting, except for me, I guess. Yeah, I wanted to take the opportunity and introduce someone now. Is that okay, Melanie?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so where's Dayna? Dayna, you in this mess over here?
Hi, I'm here.
Yeah, hi, Dayna. I wanted to introduce Dayna. Dayna is, Melanie, Dayna is one of our designers. She's a licensed that works with her. Her brand is Dayna Lee, and we collaborate with Dayna every single day. And she designs a tremendous amount of product for us. And I want to just take the opportunity. First of all, Dayna lives in Toronto. I can't pronounce the name of the city, Dayna. Sorry.
I'm in Mississauga, just outside of Toronto.
Mississauga, I got it. Dayna has 3 children, and she loves Zoom school. Like, she's telling me it's the best thing that ever happened to her.
Oh, yeah.
Phenomenal. So Dayna, I just wanted to ask you, when you design a journal, what inspires you? Like, what do you think about when you're designing the journal? And how can that, I'm hoping that can inspire other people to, when they pick out journals. Like, what are you looking for?
From my perspective, I am designing for the women who might use the journal. I try and think of the woman who doesn't see how amazing she is, who has some big goals, following some big dreams, and I design for her. So, I've been that woman at one point or another, so that's my inspiration. I feel truly connected to the work.
You feel, we're going to talk about guided journals in a little bit. Do you like designing the outsides or the insides more?
I like designing the outsides, but it's fun when I'm looking at the insides because I get to truly think about the feeling that the product has, and then I go to the content. So I'm trying to make a woman feel like I designed something just for her. So it's really meaningful.
Perfect. Amazing. Jenny, you're the best.
Thank you.
Okay. So, Melanie, I just wanted to share just a quick checklist. You're going to share this document with everyone later, right, Melanie?
Absolutely. I'm going to actually share it here in the chat tonight. And following the session, you'll also get it with the feedback survey.
Yeah. So what Melanie is talking about is, we made this quick, let's put the share button. There we go. We made this quick kind of like, checklist. If you want us to look at, look up these things that I spoke about, and you can actually Google any of them and read a lot more about it, And so here's what the insides and here's the outsides. And what those quick things, what to look for that we have here that, you can use that at a later date for, whatever you use your journal for. Yeah. So now I wanted to, if it's okay, Melanie, I want to get into like, now, how do you use a journal, right? We talked about like, we bought our journal, we got it, we're home with it. Now, what are we going to use it for? So there's, first of all, anything, right? So I wanted to, since it's Staples Canada, and since a lot of people go to Staples Canada to buy business journals, I want to spend a few seconds talking about work journals for a moment, only because it's not really what we're really going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about more guided journals, and that's where we're going to do some activities around guided journals. But I did want to spend a few seconds talking about, work journals. So in development with Staples, Ecolo and Staples together collaborated, and we built a group of journals under the True Red brand, the Staples brand. And one of the nice things about these journals is they're super flexible. I mean, they're flexible in they bend, but they're also flexible in the options that they offer you. So if you're in a work setting, we made these journals that, first of all, there's a lined version of it. There's a dotted version of it. So dotted journals, I don't know if you can see on the screen, they're just dots. So I'm sure most of you have heard of this bulletin journal phase, right? A fad where people like doing bulletin journals. You don't need to go out and buy a bullet journal. There's nothing special about a bullet journal. A bullet journal is just organizational techniques that you can use in any journal. Happens to be they really work pretty well on dot journals. So dot journals have gained some, it's not a fad, it's not a trend. People really like them. It's very flexible. You can basically write in either direction, and you can draw and you can sketch in them as well as write, and not have lines really impede you. And they also do graph journals. People really like graph journals as well because it, helps you again keep you organized on your page. If you're not only if you're not only doing just plain writing in lines. Other things nice about business journals, you should look for pockets in the back, elastic closures. Again, we spoke about pen loops. Things, if you're going from meeting to meeting and office to office, things that you want to carry with you. Something that we developed that I think is really cool product is journal with a cell phone pouch in the front cover. So if you're going from meeting to meeting, you put your phone here, you put your pen here, and then you have your notebook with you. And you can go from meeting to meeting and quickly just, write your notes, put your stuff back in, and keep going around. Like I said, on a business journal, it's really more about thinking about a little bit more mobility and moving around, whether you're going in office or going on a plane or having everything with you. That's why what's called a gusset pocket, which is a pocket in the back of the journal. It could be in the front too. We talked about receipts before. If people still keep receipts or need to keep receipts, nice quick place to throw them, or business cards or whatnot. Throw them in there. And usually I like doing those with an elastic band on it because you don't want the journal to open up and to pull out. So in a business sense, you're moving around more of that. If it's not business, then there's other kinds of, Jennifer, so there is a graph paper inside. I see a question. There's a graph paper inside. It's for people who like drawing or being a little bit not, again, the lines are encumbering for you. You want to be able to move around a little bit more. But you you like the structure of graph paper where the dots are a little bit not structured as much for you. In a personal sense, there's other, like we said, other kinds of closures. You can also think of things like, zip arounds. Again, if you're in a business or wherever, you can really put a lot of things in there and hold them, like I said, if you're moving around. So I just wanted to kind of touch on those business journals for a moment. Anyone have any questions?
I just put them up in the chat as a quick reference. So if anybody wanted to click through and see the whole assortment of those, it's in the chat for everyone.
Great. Okay. Great. I'm going to go, now we're going to go start our activity a little bit. So we spent a lot of time just now discussing kind of journals that are plain on the inside. Dots, lines, graph, whatnot. But they don't have any content. They're not guided. Not showing you what to do. You buy one of these journals, and guess what? It's all on you. You got to figure out what to do with it. Whether you're going to draw on it, flowers, write your, love letters, whatever it may be, that's on you. The next part of this is we're going to talk about guided journals or content. What that means is the author, either Dayna, or we're going to meet Laura in a few minutes as well. They're trying to help you either overcome writer's block or help you develop your own thoughts on what to do. And these guided journals come in a lot of different ways. So I'm going to show you a few different versions that we do here at Ecolo, different that, whether they appeal to travel, one day, hopefully, or whether they appeal to mindfulness. And then we're going to end off with a couple of journals that we're going to do together as a group at home, not together, but where both Dayna and Laura, who you're going to meet, are going to talk about a little bit about what inspired them to make those journals. So if anyone's got any questions, without further ado, away we go. Let's get the screen share going again.
You're becoming a real pro at this.
7 months on screen sharing. You become figure it out. So let's start. So this journal, and you can look at these online. You can find them anywhere. Staples Canada has versions of them, whether or not be from us or other people. Staples Canada probably has to do French ones too. But a bucket list journal. So there's two types of guided journals. There's a guided journal that changes every page. And then there's a guided journal that's the same page every single day. The bucket list is neither. So our bucket list journal is 100 pages, 100 of these items. And every page is the same, but a little bit different, meaning that like the 1 turns into a 2, turns into a 3. And this is kind of like a goals journal, but in a bigger way. It's almost like a lifelong goals journal, as opposed to trying to win little wins. This was a travel guided journal. So on the left side of this page is just regular lines. You can write anything, but every page is a little bit different in this journal. This particular page describes a smell, a sight, and a taste that made an impression on you this week. The next page might say, list the 3 best museums you've ever been to. The page after will say, hey, I ate in these 6 restaurants. What was the menu? So every page is talking about the travels that you've taken and where you've been and writing about that. So this journal is really meant to take either with you on a trip with you or to reminisce about the trip after.
What about if you want to plan a trip? Could this have the opposite, the opposite effect, to want to be there?
So like there's a travel journal for that. I don't have it here, but that's that's more of a planner kind of journal where you can put in, whether it be websites or phone numbers or things like that, you can build your trip in there. We don't make one of those, but it's a great idea, Melanie.
It's the whole pandemic, just wanting us to get outside of our 4 walls, right?
Yeah, we sell a
we
lot
can
of travel
dream.
journals, but we're not selling as many luggage tags and passport holders as we usually do. This is a Christian guided journal. Very, very popular product for us is where we have verse on page. Sometimes it's religious verse, but we do very often, we do a lot of quotes, inspirational quotes. The reason for it is, I don't know what to write about today. I'm feeling down, I'm feeling depressed. I need something to motivate me. And this just helps you, gives you that little push. This journal right here is basically blank. It's just basically lines, but there's just a few little, whether it be what you're grateful for or your reflections or whatnot, just to kind of help you, prompt you to write a little bit more in there. Now we're going to get really intense now. So everyone has to buckle up just a little bit. So this is, we call our intentions and reflections guided journal. Now we're really going to be prompting you to push you to start thinking about what you're doing on a day. There's a start of the day, the end of the day. The reason it looks like this is because the end of the day is on the other side. So it's like page. So it looks a little funny when you're looking at it this way. It looks totally normal in a journal. You have your goals. You'll start this at the beginning of the morning while you're having your morning coffee or your morning tea. It says sunrise in there. Current mood. We're pushing you to think and reflect on what your day, intentions of your day. And then at the end of the day, you're going to reflect on how that day was and, how the day ended up. Hopefully it ended up fantastic. Hopefully there's a big smiley face on that. I am grateful, what we brought joy today. Coming to the Staples Canada spotlight thing with Ralph and Melanie. It was a great day. So, hopefully that's what you're going to write in this journal. We call this the Calm Mindfulness Guided Journal. So on one side, you see, like I mentioned before, there's a quote, there's an Oprah Winfrey quote here, which is some blank uh, blank lines, fill in whatever you want. And on the other side, there's some mindfulness exercises that we're giving you hints on how to do that a little bit. There's a little bit more in-depth. You know, we're in the first step one, we're almost asking you to do a little bit of yoga before you write, you know? And then, of course, there's a writing experience with that because it is a journal after all. So this is a wellness of body and mind. Again, similar to the last one where we're asking you to do some breathing in here, but reflect on what your day was or what your day's going to be. Again, getting into your thoughts, clearing it out a little bit, making yourself feel a little bit more, you know, in tune with yourself. This is a mindfulness mixed with goal setting. So again, they may all seem the same, but as you look at these and you're in a store looking at journals like this and you want to pick one out, you'll kind of like feel it through and you'll look at it and say, this one speaks to me for whatever reason, or I want to try this. You know, it's not as intimidating as an empty page. This is, we're asking you, we're telling you what to write on each individual page. We have journals with writing prompts on the top of them, you know, things like that.
Is it common to have multiple guided journals happening or on the go at the same time?
Yeah, sure. You know, we do fitness ones. I mean, again, it depends how much time you have to do this in a day. Everyone's individual, you know, thing. I know people who love, like, we have fans on, like, you know, whether they, you know, DM us on Instagram, or they have YouTube videos, they buy dozens of Ecolo journals. They love our products and all different ones. People like writing, you know, it's something that, you know, people really like. People sometimes look at it as a challenge and they're intimidated by it. So they like these guided journals to help them get over that hump a little bit and get into that. And then, you know, they continue doing it. Having too many is probably a little overwhelming. You might be too introspective, but you know, you can do more than one because they're all different. This is a mindfulness, a little bit different, different questions. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to do. Those are like some general ones. Now we're going to get into our activity, and we wanted to, this is our Dayna Lee, her goals guided journal. Before I wanted to do the experience on this, I wanted to talk to Dayna for a second on what was she thinking? Dayna, I'll ask you, what were you thinking? Let me stop the screen share for a moment so I can see Dayna. Dayna, what were you thinking when you designed this? Like, what was like going through your mind?
Well, so many of us have all these great goals, but we just don't know where to start. And I think we get so overwhelmed in that. And I wanted to design a journal to track our goals with like a simple layout that didn't intimidate anyone. So I broke it up into, why is it important to you? What action steps do you need to take? And then give yourself a deadline. And my favorite part is at the bottom, there's a little checkbox that says crushed it.
I love that.
Great sense of pride, you know, when you accomplish your goals.
Yeah, amazing when the whole book has check marks in the bottom of every page at the end. Bit of a disaster if there's no check marks, but okay, we're thinking positive, right, Dayna?
Accountable. It holds you accountable.
Exactly. And every inside has some art on it, right? Every inside of every page, right? Facing what you're going to write.
The goals journal is just one repeat page, but there's a cute little inspirational page at the beginning saying, don't leave dreams here.
Exactly. Perfect. Do you ever have writer's block?
Yes, a lot. I'm really insecure and I've always had a lot of doubt and a lot of fear. And I think like for other people, the advice given if you have writer's block is like, just step away, go for a walk and come back. But mine is just to like remember your why and why what you're doing is important to you. So I think, you know, why did I come up with Dayna Lee Collection? It's to help women and support them in following their dreams. But you can use this method, I think, whenever you get stuck. Just remember why you're doing this, why it's important, and who you're doing it for.
And then start writing.
Yeah. The ideas will come because you're going to get out of your fog when you just take a step back and get clear on things.
Perfect. Thank you, Dayna, so much. You're the best. So I think we're going to do this experience now, right, Melanie?
We are. So everybody, I hope you have some paper and a pen. If you have a journal, even better.
No,
Okay.
not paper. Good journal. Yeah. So I guess I would like everyone to try to take a stab at a page out of Dayna Lee's goal journal, and just like I hope everyone could see it. Write down a goal. Write down why it's important to you, and write down what do you really need to do to achieve this, and then you have to give yourself a deadline, right? You can't just leave it open ended. So let's take a stab at that, and then we'll see if anyone wants to share.
Perfect. So we're going to give everybody 5 minutes. We want you to take a minute to yourself, and we're going to just do the entire activity that we've got here on the screen. So list out what your goal is. Why is this important to me? And don't get hung up in the goal. Dayna, do you have any guidance for us on how big or how small this goal can be?
I definitely wouldn't put pressure on it. Think of something small, especially nowadays, just anything that would add some happiness to your life. Just pick a little goal and don't put too much pressure on yourself.
Awesome. Thank you. So why is this important to me? What do I need to do to achieve my goal? We're going to leave this up on the screen. And like I said, we're going to take 5 minutes. You can leave your camera off. You can put us on mute if you'd like. I'm going to play some calming music just to really kind of set the mood. And we'll all come back in 5 minutes. We'll give it just another minute and we'll bring everybody back. Okay. I love what Susie just put up in the chat there. It always seems impossible until it's done. Sometimes all we need is a little guidance. So thank you, Dayna, for building such a great, great inspirational page to kick us off with.
It means a lot that you guys are using it and giving it a try tonight. I can't wait to see what people come up with.
Fantastic. So with that being said, what a great segue. We wanted to take this opportunity and see if anybody wanted to share what they were able to come up with. And, you know, this is a safe place. So, you know, nobody's going to be judging your goals, but if anybody wants to freely share, I'd like to invite you to do so.
Hi. I'm not going to share my actual goal, but one thing I did figure out in thinking about, you know, going through the process of, it's a work goal, so it's just, but in going through the process of figuring out how to make it happen is something I've been putting off. It sort of has like an easy, I realized it was an easy way to make myself do it, which is just to actually make a calendar like meeting time for myself, which it just made me realize how, you know, in your mind you can kind of procrastinate or be like, well, how am I going to do this? And then if you just take 3 to 5 minutes to sit in a relaxed manner, you can kind of figure something out.
Absolutely. But it's true. We all suffer with, you know, taking that moment to actually put it down. And I learned a great stat yesterday that said that once we actually take that moment to put it down, 42% of us are more likely to achieve that goal simply because we wrote it down. So that, you know, that 30 seconds to 1 minute is, you know, really going to be worth a lifetime to us, right? In the long run. Claire, thank you so much for sharing.
Does anyone else want to add?
Go ahead, Ralph. What'd you say?
I said, does anyone else want to add anything?
I can see a lot of our friends in the chat are very grateful for Claire taking a moment to chat and share. So
yeah, so let's go on to another entirely different kind of guided journal experience, shall we, Melanie?
Yes.
So where's my friend Laura? She's in here?
She is. Let's find.
Hello.
Hi, Laura. How are you?
I'm good. How's it going?
Long time no see. It's been a whole 45 minutes. So I wanted to introduce everyone to Laura. Laura, again, like Dayna, she collaborates with us on a lot of products. But Laura, her company is called Free Period Press, and Laura likes doing self-care journals, and they are amazing. So Laura has 2 different kinds of self-care journals, basically asking similar questions. One is little, one is big. One is pink, one is blue. But what's different between Laura's journals and the self-care journal, besides being on self-care, Laura's journals, each page is different, and whether they have inspirational art or questions. So they're a little bit different than that goals journal, which is the entire journal is asking you the same question every single day. These journals, you know, not really based on a day at all, right, Laura? They're just kind of there. Oh, Laura's from Cleveland, Ohio. So
Yeah.
American like us. So first of all, Laura, before I even get into there a little bit, when you're designing a journal, like the same question I asked Dayna, like what were you thinking about when you decided to go into these self-care journals?
Yeah. So the whole thing, most of the products that we make for Free Period, it's all about slowing down and focusing on what's really important to you. I think, we live in such a fast-paced, frantic world, and a lot of us are just really stressed out and overwhelmed. But when you take a step back to think about what is actually important to you and what really kind of creates a meaningful life for you, it's often the really simple things. So it could be a small moment in your day, like taking a walk outside or calling a friend, or, just spending time with family and that kind of thing. So really, everything that we do kind of helps to remind you to not get overwhelmed with the big picture, but focus on those little things that bring you joy.
Do you ever get writer's block? Do you ever have trouble designing, thinking about what to write? Does that play into like why you design a journal that like helps people focus on what to write?
Yeah, totally. Because I mean, when you, everyone's so stressed out that I think everyone has, especially this year, has experienced this burnout where you're just kind of running on empty. And so, with the self-care journal, it's like, so you want to take some time for yourself. You want to do something that's going to fill your cup, but you kind of draw a blank. You're like, what do I like to do? And so the whole idea with the self-care journal is just a bunch of ideas to get you started, to get your creative juices flowing.
Perfect. And I see like every single one of Laura's journals, every single page is a little bit different, whether they have your doodles, Laura, are those your doodles?
I partner with a great designer named Katie Doherty. And so I usually do the writing and she'll do the
doodling?
Designings, yeah.
Designing. So like every page, like this page says, what advice would my best friend give me right now? And another page could be, we'll see in a second some other ones, but whether they be like, this one is just really more art with a little thing that says, add your favorite self-care activities here. So Laura's journals are really built around fun, inspirational, and some of them are just, empty pages to write. So it's really, every day is a new adventure with these self-care journals. So that being said, let's have an adventure right now, right, Melanie? So we're going to do one more experience. Let me share my screen, and we'll let you guys, we pick the page. Like I said, Laura has a lot of pages in her journals. These guys are monsters. So we picked the page, and we're going to share it right here. And yeah, let's see if you guys can try to tackle this one.
Okay, so you've written down your goals, and now we're going to challenge you to think about what are you grateful for. So that's on the one side of the spread. And then on the other side, we're going to ask you to add your own favorite self-care activity here. Okay, so what you're grateful for and a self-care activity. And again, we're going to give you 5 minutes. So take a minute and capture your thoughts, and feel free to mute us. And then I'll pull everybody back in 5 minutes.
We'll give it just another minute there. Okay, so I'm curious, with this prompt, did everyone find it easier or harder or somewhat the same? Feel free to share in the chat. Yeah, go ahead, Jennifer.
It was about the same. I did both. And I put, I'm grateful for my parents, and I'm not going to share why. But, and then for my own favorite self-care activities in no particular order, I put down reading, listening to Gregorian chant, and don't laugh at me for this one because it's totally junk TV. Watching Hallmark sex movies.
I think a lot of
That's
us
a joke because my friend and I have this running joke that you know, Hallmark has these cheesy movies all the time because and we always change the titles, and like there's one, like for example, All Summer Long, where the lady takes leave of absence from a law firm to captain a boat. Instead of All Summer Long, we call it Sex All Summer, or Somewhere on the Sea, or Sex on the Sea, and just to make it funny. But it's just a running joke. I mean, but it to me, it's just they're so formulaic, and you always know what's gonna happen, and they're all the same, with it just same character, same, you just take different setting and it's the same storyline. You know, you change the character, change the setting, and then you know what's gonna happen. But for me, when I'm feeling really down or something, I can turn on the Hallmark Channel and it makes me feel better, or a little bit better. Or, you know, if I have a headache, I can turn out the lights and put on Gregorian chant, and that helps me feel better. It got me through my dissertation. So, and then I've always loved to read.
Thanks for sharing, Jennifer. And in the chat, you can see that a lot of us feel the same way that you do. The Hallmark movies do bring quite a bit of joy to a lot of our lives. So sometimes that's just what you need.
Jennifer, the nice thing about one of these self-care journals is if you don't have the 2 hours to watch the Hallmark movie, you can just, like, you know, when you write it, like, hey, this is my favorite activities, and that'll give a chuckle to yourself, or, you know, you can smile from just that one little, like, you know, it might not be as fulfilling as a whole Hallmark movie, but it'll be like, you know, just for fun for that 1 second.
Fantastic. So Ralph, question for you. You know, we've talked about some guided journals, and you've shown us some journals that, you know, are blank and for us to formulate our own thoughts. Is there anything where we can maybe take some of the, you know, those guided elements and inject them into the, you know, the journals that aren't guided?
Well, of course. I mean, you can, like, you know, we talked about a goals journal tonight. Well, Dayna's is beautiful and well designed and well thought out. There's nothing to stop you from writing, these are my goals from today, on the top of a blank piece of paper and getting into it, right? You can put, you know, bullet points, wingdings. You can do an organizational, like we talked about bulleting journals, you can do that yourself. Stickers. We sell some journals with stickers on them. We didn't talk about stickers. You can add stickers to your journals. That helps you design that inside to motivate yourself. Free period. We talked about with Laura before. They design stickers, and great stickers that you can take a blank journal and just, like, you know, hey, today's going to be a self-care day. And just put a self-care sticker on that and write about self-care, or Tomorrow's going to be a goals day, and the next day is going to be writing about my parents. Whatever, whatever speaks to you. It's a blank, literally, it's a blank sheet in front of you. And if it makes it less intimidating by adding to it, fantastic. Like I said, whatever speaks to you inside, that's what that journal is for. It could be a blank piece of copy paper out of the copy machine. That could be your journal. I mean, it won't be a great journal, but it'll be a journal, right? Yeah.
Amazing. Well, Ralph, I want to thank you, Dayna, Laura, all of you for sharing your knowledge with us this evening. We now know what it takes to, buy a great journal. And now we know how to really start to capture our thoughts, and that we're not alone, that all of us can, get frozen with fear or writer's block. And we've just got to take a minute and find that motivation, that inspiration, and it may come from any one of you, and get our thoughts captured on that paper.